G'day folks, and welcome back to the channel for the start of a new playthrough of Grim Dawn. This time we are doing a fresh start series for an Albrecht's Chaos Ray Warlock. Since this was going to be the character that I used for an updated hardcore achievements run, it's a very solid character with an actual plan, and I have tested it. So we'll be starting as an occultist vitality caster for Act 1. We'll be converting our vitality spells into chaos damage towards the end of Act 1, and then swapping to Albrecht's Chaos Ray around level 35 after killing the Ethereal Amalgamation near Homestead. Now, like I said, this is going to be a fresh start, so I will be starting with nothing in the bank, no bits, no recipes, exactly as if I had just bought the game and this was my very first character. So if that sounds like you and you want to play along, you will be able to follow what I do, and there will be some variance with item drops, but you'll more or less be able to do what I do and get similar results. So, for character creation, I have named my character Matt Damon for meme reasons, basically, which means I'm going male. Male or female makes no difference in this game. Just pick whichever you'll prefer. Veteran, I highly recommend new players to play on Veteran. It's much easier to learn how the bosses work when they live long enough to actually do their moves. If you don't have Veteran turned on, you'll be playing on what's called normal difficulty, and things will die so fast you won't have time to actually see the moves of the bosses. So I strongly recommend Veteran for new players. Turning Veteran off, I consider this to be for people who want to play with one hand after work. You know, you've got a beer in one hand, you want to play some Grim Dawn with your other hand. That's what normal's for, in my opinion, or for people who just want to rush the end game. Although at that point, there are better ways. In terms of hardcore, do note here that if you have hardcore selected here, death is permanent. If you die, your character is turned into a ghost. You won't be able to log them in, and all of their items and everything to do with them will be deleted. So if that doesn't sound like fun to you, turn that off. Other than the permadeath, there is no other difference. Right, let's get underway. Here is Matt Damon, and let's get into the game. Now, anyone who's watched any of my other playthroughs knows that I just skipped the cutscene, and I will be skipping the other cutscene as well. Also note that you can spin the camera, and it is useful in several places, the first one being here, but I will generally try not to spin the camera, as I find that it kind of interferes with knowing where I'm going. Alright, on this first bridge you got this big boy who hits quite hard, and you got three little dudes who are with him, and you don't actually have to kill any of them. When he does his big charge, you'll see the white cloud around him. Make sure that attack doesn't hit you, because it hurts. Other things to note here, if you press O and go into your loot filter, turn the white items off, and turn double rares to always on. Also down here, this little yellow triangle here, makes your little mini-map bigger. It's never a bad idea to have more of that. Also, as long as I'm on the topic, I had this off because I was playing a pistol build, but that should be on by default. The things you want to make sure you have set: auto loot radius, turn it all the way up, and where is keybinds? Here we go. For keybinds, your dodge, mine is set to mouse 4, so that is, where are we, down here somewhere? Here we go, evade. Mine's on mouse 4, I believe the default is space. Put it wherever is comfortable. You're going to be using it a decent amount, so make sure you can hit it and you know where it is. The other ones I like to set is toggle hide all items. I have mine on Z or Z, depending on where you are in the world. And this is really helpful for when you start doing totems, because your screen will rapidly get filled with gear, and you want to be able to hide that so you can actually fight the monsters. Other changes I have made, pickup. Make sure you have this bound to a key. I'm not sure what the default is. It might even not be bound by default, but this basically lets you pick up items that you're standing near by pressing a keyboard button instead of clicking a mouse. This will save you a lot of clicks, and generally just help with RSI and that sort of thing. Also, it's, I don't know, for me it's more comfortable to press R than it is to click on individual items. Energy and health potions, I believe these are 9 and 0 by default. It may have changed with 1.2. Mine are just E and Q because that's comfortable for me. Whatever's comfortable for you, go ahead and make sure you have those bound somewhere. With the, I think it was 1.2.0.3 patch, I think, a recent patch anyway, changed it so as you could put them back on your hotbar, so you can actually bind them on here. You can also put evade on here, which initially you couldn't, so you can have evade on whatever button you want, really. Okay, this is our first stop, and this is... let's just kill these off before we worry about that. Okay, level 2, and we're kind of semi-safe here. This house will always have Hevel's Greatsword. It doesn't always have of Alacrity. You may sometimes get some extra lightning damage. Whatever it happens to be for you, just pick it up and use it. If you mouse over your Shiv once you've equipped it on, or you can mouse over the two-handed sword, you'll see that it hits considerably harder than this starting item. Alright, I'm going to throw those on the floor. And one fun thing about this character is you're pretty much putting everything into Physique. Pretty much the whole way to level 100 we'll be putting everything into Physique. We do want to use some heavier armor while leveling, and that's how we get to do that. Okay, for skills, we are starting as an occultist. So, we will be going for Sigil of Consumption as our first skill. There are different ways that you can level as an occultist. Our goal is basically get to Homestead and get to level 35-ish, however you prefer. So if you want to turn this into a walking simulator and max out Summon Familiar and then just walk at things and have the bird kill it for you, you can do that. If you want to do Acid, Dreeg's Evil Eye, you can do that as well. This is a very strong start. We will be using Sigil of Consumption, or at least I will be. You do it however you prefer. This is what I'm going to be doing. Sigil of Consumption does require 10 points, so unfortunately we don't have a spell to use just yet. We are still a left clicker. Or right click if you would prefer to assign it to right click, whatever's, you know, easiest for you. Do click on rocks early on. You do want to get your hands on components. These polished emeralds, plus 8 to all of your stats. If you look at how much you have on these stats, 2 of these is like 20% boost to all of the stats. So you want to collect those. You also want to get your hands on a scavenge plating just there. Make sure you have one of those on your belt. Plus 15 armor on your belt is actually plus 15 armor on every slot. And now seems like a good time to talk about armor as well. If you mouse over here, you'll see your armor rating. And you have, in that first column there, chance to hit area. This is the chance that an attack is going to hit that item. So for example, if you have 1,000,000 armor on your chest, but you don't have any shoulders, there's a decent chance you'll get hit in the shoulders and you just won't use that armor from your chest. So it's important to have decent armor in every slot. Obviously at the moment, in our shoulders and feet, we don't have those, so that is 0% armor absorption at the moment. And that absorption percentage is also important because that means 30% of all damage you take in, for example, the head slot, goes through no matter how much armor you have. If you have 1,000,000 armor on your helmet and you get hit for 20 damage, 70% of that armor, or 70% of the damage, will be blocked by your armor, and 30% just goes straight through. So that's something that will come up later. This is our first kind of boss, and you can beat this boss by just holding left click. The hardest part of this fight is killing off all of his friends. I definitely recommend just holding left click on the boss until he dies, and then you can kill his friends off after that. There we go. He will drop his monster infrequent. I'm using a mod called the Rainbow Filter, which you'll be able to find easily by Googling Grim Dawn Rainbow Filter. And I strongly recommend it for learning the game. I could probably turn it off quite happily, but kind of just don't want to. It basically shows you, if you look on this item, you'll see that Barog's bloody arm there is in a slightly different green to Hevel's Greatsword. I think those actually should be the same green as Barrog's, but it's not. The green from Hevel's Greatsword is the color for a rare item, or a rare prefix, sorry. And then the green on Barrog's Bloody Arm there, sort of more of a yellowy green, is the color for a monster infrequent item, and then you have of Alacrity at the end there in yellow to signify that it is a magic modifier. Okay, picked up lore notes. Lore notes are good because they're XP, and we also have another level. And we're putting all of it into the bar until we get to 10 points. Also, everything into Physique, at least for a while. We'll probably get some Spirit at some point, probably just 5 or 10 points. But for now, everything into Physique. Physique gives us health, if you put your mouse over this. So you get bonus health, you get some bonus health regeneration. It also increases your defensive ability, which is sort of a combination chance to dodge, chance to be hit sort of thing. The monster's offensive ability against your defensive ability, and then the difference between them comes up with the chance for them to hit you, the chance for them to crit you, and your chance to dodge, depending on what it is. Okay, Faldus here. If you just put your mouse right at the bottom of the calm down where you're from line and click through, that'll do what needs to happen. You'll send him back to town, and you can talk to him later for some XP and reputation with Devil's Crossing. Now, I am killing a decent amount of these zombies because I do want to be level 5 before we go into the Burial Cave, or at least before we fight the boss in the Burial Cave. You don't have to do this, you can just go and left-click him, but playing on Veteran, he does actually have a decent amount of health, and I do want to have Sigil of Consumption ready to go before we go in there. The other way you could do this is Bloody Pox. This is a damage over time skill, and you can use that to kill him as well. I'm just going to go straight for Sigil of Consumption. Level 5 is fairly standard for me when I go in to fight Kaizog, so I should have 2 points in Sigil. And then the basic idea is just keep the Sigil on him, keep you out of the green glowing goop, and hold left click, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so working our way up Burial Hill, we're going to run into my favorite thing to kill in the entire game. That is Aether Crystals. Why is it my favorite thing to kill? Because it drops Aether Crystals here. So these are used in crafting and for a few quests, and they are basically never going to have enough of them. As soon as you start doing any crafting, so for me, it's usually around the end of Act 1, but as soon as you start any amount of crafting, you will run out of Aether Crystals so fast. So definitely pick them up when you can. If you get surrounded like this, you can dash away, or you can just walk away at this point. Once we get another level, we won't need to dash or walk away, we'll just stand there and leech enough life back from Sigil of Consumption that it won't be an issue. Also, I know the gameplay at the moment is not exactly riveting. Just give me another level and you'll kind of see what happens. Maybe another 2 or 3 levels. Like I said, I'm killing extra zombies here because I want to be level 5 before I fight Kaizog. The other way you can do this is you can skip the Burial Hill for now, go into the Whitemire, kill some more stuff in there that you're going to have to kill anyway, and then come back once you get to level 5 or 6. I prefer to just kill extra zombies. It's not a big deal either way. Okay. More zombies here. This should get us to level 5, and 1 point in the bar to get us to 10, 2 points in Sigil of Consumption, and now watch this. I'm no longer concerned about my health at all. Oh, they're already dead. Okay. So, Sigil of Consumption. Let's just kill whatever zombies on this first platform. Kind of round them up if I can. Here we go. You put it on the ground, and everything that stands in it will take damage. I believe it's mostly vitality at this point, but it also heals you. So if we have a look at this, 3-second recharge, 6-second duration. So we can have 2 of these active at a time, kind of 3. We'll be casting the 3rd one as the first one disappears. And it does vitality damage, and then vitality decay, which is the damage over time version of vitality damage. And 18% of the damage it does is converted to health, so we get healing from this as well. Let's see if we can throw one down there. No, can't quite reach. And just because you have a spell now doesn't mean you can't keep hitting things. Alright, Kaizog down here. The first and most important thing to do is kill this rotting soldier, because he does a lot of damage if you let him get a charge up. And the next thing to do, kill the green zombies. Make sure you don't kill yourself while you're tunnel visioning the zombies. And then you basically just need to keep the zombie population under control while you kill Kaizog. Like I said, you can have 2 of these sigils at any one time. As long as you have 1 of them underneath Kaizog, that should be providing you with kind of enough healing through damage that you should be fine. Once the green zombies come out though, you will have to kill them. They will be throwing extra little aether crystals and putting extra damage on the floor. They're a pain in the backside. If this was normal, you don't have to worry about any of this, so if you're playing normal, just come in and hold left click on him and he'll go away. Pushing the wrong button there, trying to press R to pick things up and spamming a different key. Okay, belts. This one is better than my old one, so I'm going to swap that in. I'm actually not going to put another scavenge plating on this belt. Because we're going to need some of these for crafting later on, I now have to keep this belt in my inventory to get that back. That'll be towards the end of Act 1 where you're able to do that. So, unfortunately, I now have a permanent fixture in my inventory. Right, inside the cave here as well is your very first devotion shrine, which I will cover here in a second. First we'll get rid of these aether crystals and all the little zombies that are going to crawl out of the floor. Okay. Ruined shrines. So ruined shrines are kind of, you give it this item, which we have 6 of, and it gives you some loot, some XP, and 1 devotion point. If you come here on your character sheet or your skill page and go into devotions, you'll see this mess. Now, at the start, you can only put points into one of these, basically. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, I think we're going for the imp first. Probably should have had the plan up. Let me just go ahead and do that right now. I'm pretty sure it's the imp, though. Where are we? Here we go, Warlock. Da-da-da-da-da. And let's have a look at what this is supposed to look like at level 15. I definitely should have already had this active, but I didn't. I'm bad at this YouTube thing. Yeah, so we are going for, actually not the imp, sorry, it was the fiend. And we need 1 red affinity for that, so find the one that has red on it, we'll use that. That does give you a minor bonus, so this one gives health, this one's also health, defensive ability, offensive ability, and offensive ability. You don't need to complete this one, you basically just use this to get the color you need to get the ones you want. And the Fiend is going to be the first one we are going for. There are definitely power leveling strats that you can go for that will tell you to take the Jackal and the Sailor's Guide first. You can do that if you prefer. Early on, devotion points are not quite as important as they are later, so if you just want to get run speed and move a bit quicker through the act, that's also fine. Generally speaking, you want to kill Aether Crystals before anything else, because they summon additional enemies, so killing them off means you have to cut your way through less HP. And then heading out the back door, time to go into the swamp. Now, as you put more points into Sigil of Consumption, the radius of it will go up. So if you sort of have a look at how big it is now, it's kind of 2 characters wide. By the time we get to the end of Act 1, it's going to be a fair bit larger. Do continue to put 1 point per level into the mastery bar as well. You do need stats while you are leveling, and if you're not putting points into spirit, you will need the spirit in order to afford to cast this spell once you start putting more points into it. Okay, these blue Rift Scourges actually do a lot of damage, so you want to take them out first. And this is our third boss. This guy is for a quest, so we do want to kill him. Don't get hit by his poison vomit. Don't get hit by anything if you can avoid it. And he'll go down very slowly, but he will go down. The other thing you can do is, since we have infinite potions now, you can just stand here and kill him. You will take some damage from his poison. You will take damage from his Aether, whatever that is, Aether Nova. But he will go down pretty quickly. When he dies, he'll put this green circle on the ground. You don't want to stand in that. I know I just did, but it was kind of to make a point. Cost me half my health bar. Right, when we're looking for gear, in terms of armor, you just want the maximum armor value you can get. Generally speaking, triple the armor value is way more valuable than 7 cunning and 6% physique. That may not be true later. If you've got an item that has really good stats on it, and you find a replacement that has, 5% more armor, it's probably not worth doing unless the new item also has good stats. But early on, armor is the stat you want. More armor means less damage taken, basically. It's how you're going to live through Act 1. And then after Act 1, you want to focus mostly on resistances. So coming into the White Mire, we're looking for a couple of things. The first one is these little holes in the ground. Because these little holes in the ground spawn Slith. And we don't like the Slith. Specifically the blue ones. We are very racist against the blue Slith. The Deep Mire Shamans here, because they drop these necklaces. And we want to get our hands on 3 of those necklaces. So there is a quest early in the game which basically says, collect 3 of those necklaces, bring them to me, and I will give you a pretty good ring. And since we don't have pretty good rings, I definitely want those. Now, as far as totems go, early on, these are quite dangerous, and later they also become quite dangerous again. You can do them or not as you see fit. I have a little bit of PTSD playing hardcore with those early totems, because if they spawn the mountain men, they have a spell where basically they throw nets at you and then you can't run away, and then you have to tank the totem, and a lot of the time you just can't tank the totem. So I prefer not to do early totems in Act 1. By the end of Act 1, you can just do them and it's no big deal. Okay, so the White Mire Rift Gate here is one you're going to have to fight for. You just keep your sigils on the ground and run around in circles, and then everyone sort of dies. You can hit these if you want to, but just make sure the bigger guys, the Rotting Ember Guard and the Rotting Soldiers, don't give them a chance to do their big wind-up attack. So they'll do like a charge. You'll see, there you go, the white cloud comes out of them. And then they have a big swing attack, which really, really hurts. You do not want to get hit by that if you can avoid it. If you get hit by 3 or 4 of those at the same time, decent chance you die. And the damage comes in quite quickly, so if you're not joining on the spot with your potions, rest in peace. So 1 more point in the bar, 2 more points, in Sigil of Consumption. And we're getting more and more damage now. We're up to 82 in the initial, and then 220 for the damage over time portion. So starting to stack up on damage. Most things should be dying in sort of 1 or 2 hits. There we go. Whenever you see one of these holes, make sure you put a sigil over it and just stand next to it so as the slith will spawn. Like I said, these blue ones have the necklaces we want. Unfortunately, I didn't get any, but it is what it is. Alright, you will get to a point where your inventory is full. The first thing to note is that it's probably not actually full. This game is really bad at Tetrising the inventory, so you may have to give it a little bit of help. Next thing to note is just here, you'll see this cave, and you'll also note that it's not marked on the map like, I don't know if it'll show actually, it might be too far away. There's usually a little icon on the map. So this one is not marked, and may not actually be here. That's because this is a quest location. So you can come in here or skip this, it actually doesn't really matter. You'll get a little bit of XP, and you'll start the Rover's Reputation early. Actually, I'm not sure about that. I'll double check that when we do it, because I kind of have a feeling you don't start the Rover's Rep early for doing this quest. But the basic idea is you just kill these convicts and come down here and talk to Jasper. Doesn't really matter what your options are, but you can send them away. And you do get Rover's Reputation, so actually you do... That's right, so you start the Rover's Reputation, but since you don't have any Arcovian undead to kill, you'll still be at 250 when you get to them and start doing their bounties and quests. So it's a little bit of free reputation, but it's actually not that much. And doesn't really provide any advantages. Okay, I've just found my first pair of shoulders, so that will definitely help. I think I'm just missing boots now. And there's level 8. 1 point in the bar, 2 points in Sigil, and 1 point in Physique. Now I do want to get my hands on Destruction here. So I think after 8 points, I might just go ahead and beeline for that. You'll note also that this weapon is starting to feel kind of rubbish for killing things. Do keep your eye out for an extra weapon, but also consider using a shield, because this spell doesn't have... what's a good example here? Drieg's Evil Eye. Okay, so once you have Bloodburst on Drieg's Evil Eye, you'll see it says 5% main hand damage. This basically means that a portion of your weapon gets added into the spell damage. That doesn't exist on Sigil of Consumption. Even if you have it completely maxed out, your weapon doesn't actually do anything. So consider using a shield once you have Sigil of Consumption and you're not really left-clicking anymore. Do note, though, that you kind of have to have something to do in between casts. So having a really rubbish weapon is not really ideal. So Gillis here is part 2 of a 3-part quest to kill a bunch of different flavored zombies. The third part of this quest is further up the road, and the first part was, I forget his name, but the poison zombie we killed earlier in that little house. I think it's Pharos the Rotted. Alright, the other good thing about Gillis here is Gillis has this rotting corpse right next to him. And this rotting corpse always drops Carver's Conjuring Bone, which unfortunately doesn't really fit. So usually around this point is when I head back to town, when my inventory is full. I'm going to turn in all of these quests here. I'm going to talk to Carrick here and just get rid of all these old items except for that belt, which I'm going to keep because it has a component I want on it. Do also check items as you're selling them, because you don't want to sell something with, for example, almost double the armor. So just make sure you're checking that sort of thing. As far as shields go, Doesn't really matter. And since I can use Carver's Conjuring Bone, I'm going to. Again, you're going to get one random affix on this. I got Of Blood, which is the bleeding damage you'll see on the item. This basically does nothing for me. But if you happen to get something with a damage proc on it, it could be very nice. Don't sell your scrap. But generally speaking, you can toss most of what you find. Like I said, I am going to talk to everybody in town at this point, because they all have XP, various different quests. So this guy's giving me iron, some reputation, and a piece of scrap. You will need 12 scrap, I think it is, for Act 1, so don't be selling any of the scrap. And this is Sardina. She will let you remove points from your skills. I'm going to undo that because I do have them where I want them. But if you were leveling with the pet, you could, whenever you feel like, take those points out of the pet and put them into, for example, Sigil of Consumption. Kasparov here, you can accept his quest, and giving him 4 Aether Crystals will give you a skill point. Highly recommend that because, well, skill point. And I'm going to take this actually up to 9 points, and now we're putting everything in the bar until we get to destruction. 9 is a decent size, and you'll see it's starting to get a little bit heavy on energy use. Alright, so my good old friend Harmond here will actually give you the quest reward before you do the quest. His is the quest to kill Pharos the Rotted, Julius the Decayed, and Negan the Withered, who's up this road a little bit. The reason I went back to town is because I wanted to point out this belt. If you can find a belt with Of Mending, if you can find rings with Of Mending, or of Renewal later on, basically you want regeneration. In Act 1, you're not really expected to have all your resistances maxed out, really good armor, 100% armor absorption, and various defensive devotions. They don't expect you to have that because you kind of can't have that at this point in the game. So just having a lot of regeneration is kind of enough to see you through Act 1. So we'll just kill these guys off. You'll see this little dog here. That is from the Carver's Conjuring Bone. Fido there is providing us with an attack speed buff. And here is my good friend Milton. Now Milton is another flavor of zombie that we have to kill, but he's for a different quest, which I actually didn't pick up in town, but you can talk to his sister in town, and she will request that you find her brother, and this is her brother. She wasn't really clear on him being alive or dead, but as it turns out, he is actually dead. So our little doggy friend from the Carver's Conjuring Bone will pop out randomly, and he will give us that little arrow above our head is from him, and that gives us 10% total speed, which is move speed, attack speed, spell speed. Just generally all-round good thing to have. Now, if you have a look at my energy bar, you'll note that it's getting a little bit low, and that's kind of why I was saying that you want to maybe stop around 8 or 9 in the skill for now. This is going to add a little bit of energy cost, +5, which is less than what you would pay for another level of Sigil, and this also adds a lot of flat fire and chaos damage to it, and at the moment we don't really care what type of damage we're doing, as long as we're doing damage. Okay, these ones are a lot of extra armor, so I'm going to put those on. Still don't have any boots, unfortunately, which I'm not going to lie, kind of sucks. Definitely want to get some boots with some run speed on them. Okay, there goes the Aether Crystal. A few more Slith over here. Hopefully we can get a couple more necklaces, because we are past the point at which we could turn this in. One of the great things about this spell is that it is AoE, so anything that comes near you that has to stand in this to hit you will basically die before it does any real damage. Less damage, but it does have 15 spirit, so it could be worth wearing these. If you're having energy problems early, finding an item with a bunch of spirit on it is a good way to fix that. You could also just put 5 or 10 points in spirit, which I definitely do. Sometimes. And then 3 more in here just gives us more stats, more energy, more health. Generally all around good stuff from the bar. Usually you're not going to want to put all of your points into the bar, but since we're rushing for that skill, it does make sense. Alright, here is Negan the Withered. This is the, I guess, the fire zombie. You more or less want to just bash him until he puts up his little fire circle. And then you want to run around for a little bit so you don't die to that. Maybe kill off his friends while it's active and then go back to hitting him. Alternatively, if you're confident with using potions, you can just stand next to him and just neck a potion whenever you get to about half. I'm about half, I'll use a potion. The good thing about the 1.2 patch is they changed potions to be just a cooldown. They now live here, and you can use one every 12 seconds forever if you want to. Whereas before you actually had to go and buy them or find them. And then they took up a spot in your inventory, you could run out of them. It was a bad time. I did, however, just find some reinforced greaves of haste, which means we're moving a little bit quicker now. Which everybody likes. Also, I've been a little bit bad about using it, but the evade skill does speed you up a little bit. It's not going to be much, but a little bit is better than nothing. And you can also use it to get through any kind of doors or choke points that have been blocked by being filled with slith or various other monsters. Do remember, the blue ones are priority targets. They have quest items that we want. The other good part about this skill is you kind of put it on the floor and then run around in circles. Okay, there's another one. What are we up to now? We've got 3, so we can go turn this in. And I will. But first we have to go into this cave. That's a big pack. There isn't usually this much stuff here. It's one of the other major differences between normal and veteran as well, is in veteran, the groups of monsters tend to be larger. So where in normal you will get 1 hero in a group, in veteran it'll be 2 or 3 often. Okay, we're starting to get these slightly larger, slightly angrier slith, and it just kind of doesn't matter. Starting to get rare items as well, which is nice. Coming over here, we're going to put 1 point into the Fiend. We don't currently do any fire or chaos damage, but we will soon. And these rare boots, in spite of the fact that they are rare and they look really fancy, these are actually not as good as the boots we're wearing. We don't do fire or aether damage, we don't do burn damage, so those top 3 lines are basically may as well not be there. 5 physique, spirit, and offensive ability. The energy regen, the aether rest, that's all nice, but in my opinion, the loss of 15 armor and 5% move speed is too much for me. So I'm just going to leave those off. This helmet should be slightly better. Slightly. Chuck that on. You can explore the rest of this area, and there's a totem here to do. I'm going to leave it for now, and we're going to head back to the Whitemire Rift. Oh, that reminds me. If you press M for map, and then go to the world map here, you don't have to be near a rift. You can just click where you want to go. It'll automatically open a personal rift, which you can see here, and then teleport you there. So you don't have to worry about manually opening your rift. You don't have to worry about running to a rift before you can use one. Just press M, go to the world map, click where you want to go. It's a really good system. By far my favorite traveling system in an ARPG so far. The downside, of course, is it's really easy to move your personal portal and end up having to run through an entire castle again. Okay, Torvin here has the quest for the Slith necklaces. We can turn that in, and he'll give us a very nice ring. This ring is good enough to last you until Ultimate, if you don't find other ones that are better. So do keep an eye on it and do use it. The other thing is, early on, because you are going to be keeping this for a while, it is worth putting a polished emerald on it. We'll be replacing that later with a soul shard, but for now, it's a really good option. I'm also checking the rare weapons. Not that I can afford, well, any of them. So there's kind of no point to that actually now that I'm thinking of it, but I am looking for regen, for example, on rings. I'm looking for similar things on amulets, although we do have a free amulet coming up. And on weapons, you want to find weapons that have +2 to Sigil of Consumption or something like that. The other thing to note is we could go into Arcanist right now and just get a point in Inner Focus. Iskandra's Elemental Exchange is good early because it gives you the energy regeneration, but I would probably do something like this if I was going to take Arcanist now. I'm not, so I'm just going to keep putting it in here. Do note that if you select a class, so let's say Arcanist, which we are going to take, and then you put 1 point in the bar, or any number of any other things, but just as soon as you put that first point in here and close it out, you will not be able to undo your class. So once you pick your second class and spend a point in it, that's it. You are stuck with that class forever. You cannot take that last point out. So be careful when you do that. Okay, what do we got? In terms of quests, we have Barnabas, which we'll do soon, return to town, and basically return to town. There is one more thing I want to do before we return to town, though, and that is find the second Devil's Crossing merchant. So that's his caravan that he was part of. Also, since we turned these in, we don't need that anymore. You can throw it on the ground, you can put it in your stash and use it in Elite or in Ultimate if you want. But they're not super difficult to find, so it's not a big deal either way. It's entirely up to you if you want to hang on to it or not. I'm just going to toss it on the floor. Once you do toss it on the floor, though, if you don't have the quest for it anymore, it will just disappear. You won't be able to pick it up again. Okay, here is Luther Graves. This is the second merchant. Make sure you're nice to him. This is your permanent Devil's Crossing merchant. At some point in the story, something will happen, and the one you start with actually ends up dead. So this is your permanent Devil's Crossing merchant. You don't want to piss him off when you find him. So be nice to him. You do have the option to shake him down, and he will give you some iron bits, but he will have a permanent price increase in his shop if you do that, and I like to occasionally go shopping there, so I definitely make sure that I'm nice to him. Okay, now that I've got white or yellow in every slot, I'm going to turn the magic items off. Now you can leave them on, pick things up, and sell them. It's not a bad idea because we are going to need some bits at the end of Act 1. However, I generally just turn it off, and if I don't have the bits I need, I just wait. There's a couple of things that are kind of important at the end of Act 1, and there's stuff that's nice to have that you can wait for. Right, so the Flooded Passage, usually about here, is where I go back to town and do a whole bunch of talkie-talkie. So eat your conversation pie. Here's Luther Graves we just rescued, and we're going to sell him some stuff. He does have a bunch of components. These serrated spikes, you may need to buy some, but for now, just leave them. Check for any items that have sort of more than 15 regeneration. Belts are good ones to check. I've already got a decent belt, but this belt is actually quite good. Pierce resistance is something you will need for Act 2, and poison and acid is pretty much always good. And then you have some regen as well. I'm probably not going to buy anything just yet. Right, how much scrap do we have? We have 7. So if at this point you don't have at least 6 scrap, you can buy some from Carrick. Don't buy more than 6. If you have 4, just buy 2. And then we're going to come talk to Barnabas. He will take some of our scrap to fix the windmill, give us some iron back, and then we'll get a quest to take care of the Slith. More specifically, we have to kill Veloth the Corrupted. And we can come down here into the Conx Tunnel. And more or less we're going to move through this tunnel, and at the end there's going to be a Megaslith who we have to kill. Now again, you can run through this whole area. There's actually a lot of stuff to kill in here, but you don't need to kill any of it. You can walk through here, completely ignore everything, and be just fine. These Furies can be quite painful to kill because they lifesteal. They, if they get into melee with you, you can get stuck in like this endless loop of you can't kill them because they're leeching from you, and they can't kill you because you're leeching from them, and it just kind of never ends. So it's amusing, but you also kind of get stuck. Alright, lots of spiders down here. We're basically just moving through here, level 11, sticking with the cultist still, and just more points in the bar. Same deal here. If you're noticing the playstyle, it's kind of changed from an auto attacker with the sigil on the ground to I just kind of run away from things and leave a circle on the ground and things die behind me. So this is more or less what we're going to be doing until we get to Homestead and swap over. There will be some gear changes, but the Sigil of Consumption is going to be doing a lot of damage by the end of Act 1. There's one item we need to get our hands on, and unfortunately it's going to require some farming. Okay, so boss with a skull above its head. If you don't have that skull above its head, it is in here somewhere. Where are we? Interface. It's one of these options. It's not key binding. Health bars, there we go. Display monster icons, that's the one. I've had a couple of comments from people saying like, you know, mine don't have this, how do you turn it on? Well, that's how. Just grab this shrine, and when you see that skull above her head, the orange skull, that basically means the move she's doing at the time, she'll do it again here in a second. Now, there we go. So this water move now will do what's called Sunder. And that basically means you take tons of extra damage. So I'll get hit by it here. And here you go, Sundered, you take 30% more damage. Which doesn't sound bad. 30%, not a huge number. But actually it's quite a lot of extra damage, especially later. Because you have different layers of defenses, and that 30% is applied first, it actually reduces the effect of your armor, reduces the effect of your absorption. It's just generally a bad time for everyone involved, especially for you. So do try and dodge them. That's what the evade skill is for. Most bosses are going to have a pattern. So for this one, it's Poison Nova. Now she's going to put the circle on the ground. Watch as she doesn't do it. Nope, circle. Now comes the Sunder. Yep. And most bosses are going to be patterns like this. And once you learn the pattern, you kind of know what's going on. And then you can dodge them fairly easily. With that said, this character is going to have something around about 40% damage absorption. So we will be okay to face tank some of that if we need to. Obviously it's not ideal, but you can do it. Okay. These are pretty much the same item. Resistant instead of aggressive, but realistically it's not a big difference. I'm just going to ignore that. This one still doesn't have run speed on it. This one is decent, but much less armor, so I'm not going to use that either. Now, Veloth's ring Cage Souls is the pet stuff, so +2 to raise skeletons, and then all of that bonus to all pets things is from Cage Souls. And the Resolute, I'm pretty sure, is going to be one of those resistances, or perhaps the stun duration. But this ring is not particularly good for us. Yours might be. When you get yours, it could be quite good. Okay, next point in the Fiend gives us some spirit, and bonus to all pets does nothing to us, since we don't have any pets. But we're done in here, so let's go talk to my good friend Barnabas. Now, Barnabas here, when you turn this quest in, will give you an inventory bag. So now we have a bigger inventory. I'm kind of thinking, or I was thinking that we might have needed more physique for this, but actually no, we just need another level. Alright, so we have Milton Hart's amulet as well. So we'll go and talk to his sister. That would be Sybil Hart here. She will give us some XP and a new necklace or amulet. Now the game starts you with an amulet. It's a salt bag. You can keep this if you want. There is a quest right at the end of the game that requires it. But you can just make a new character and share it if you want to. If you're interested in doing that quest, that's what I recommend. So that's what I do. I'm going to talk to Captain Bourbon here, just for the extra XP. And then everybody's favorite part of the game, stash management. Now, there's two different stashes. So this purple one is the shared stash, and this is what I recommend you put all of your stuff into. Because if you die, you will still have access to this stash with other characters. Anything you put in your player stash is locked to this character, and if your character dies, all of this dies with him. So always use the shared stash, and then that way, if you die, you don't actually lose all of your everything. Right. So, our next mission is to get to the city, or the town of Burridge Village, and to get there we have to go through the flooded passage. You can pay a bunch of scrap to fix the bridge outside, but then you miss out on all the goodies in the cave, so we're not going to do that. When you go through this cave, there's going to be a whole bunch of boulders that block various ways through. Just find your way to the northeast, and you'll find the devotion shrine eventually. That's basically what you're looking for. Find the devotion shrine, that's your exit. And just kill things as you go through. There are some little secret hidden areas in here, one of which requires dynamite, which we don't have yet. The other one is actually back here, I think. So I think I skipped that one as well because the rock was in the way. But there are little side areas hidden in this area, in every area, actually. I'll try and point them out as I find them. Oh no, here's the one I was thinking of. So you'll note that I'm actually off the map here, and there's a strong box and occasionally a few other things here too. So you can find some nice stuff kind of hidden off the side of the map. Usually you won't find anything particularly amazing in those hidden side areas, but you can sometimes get some good drops. Alright, here's our devotion shrine, and this one's glowing red, which one of the earlier ones was as well, but I didn't really mention it at the time. The ones that are glowing red are corrupted, basically, or desecrated, I guess they call them. And that means you're going to have to fight for them, so you can't just give this one an Aether Crystal and get your point. You actually have to fight the monsters that it spawns. Although in this case it's not going to be particularly difficult. Just keep your sigil going. Make sure you're close enough to your little doggy. He'll give you the buff that doesn't really actually do much for us yet. Alright, got a blue item out of that. So, one thing to note about this game is it's got a couple of noob traps, and the biggest one is blue and purple items. This item looks really good. Wow, crit damage, bleeding damage, attack damage converted to health, that's healing, offensive ability, vitality resistance. This looks really good. The reasons that a lot of blue and purple items are actually not good is, well, we don't do any bleeding damage. Our crit chance is 0.2%, so those top two lines basically do nothing for us. Attack damage converted to health on items only actually applies to attacks that do weapon damage, which Sigil doesn't, so we get no healing out of this. So this belt is 10% vitality resistance, and there's, as far as I know, there's nothing in Act 1 that does vitality damage. This belt is effectively plus 19 offensive ability, and that's it. So, well, technically it has 16 armor as well, but that doesn't help my argument. We're just ignoring that. You just have to be careful with your blue and purple items that you don't end up with an item that looks super fancy, but actually doesn't help you. Blue is not better just because it's blue, and purple is not better just because it's purple. You have to have the right blue items and the right purple items. Otherwise you end up in situations like I see on Reddit every day. Help! Why does my build suck? Have a look at it. It's a level 50 character with a whole bunch of level 20 blue items. And they die in one hit because they don't have any armor and they don't have any resistances. And I don't care about this Sunder because he doesn't have any follow-up attacks. So you get sundered from this guy. Here we go, he'll do it again here in a second. He'll do it again here. There he goes. So I got sundered, he gets one auto attack. And that's it. Sunder wears off. So the Sunder from the Ancient Shambler, you can dodge it if you want to. It's not particularly hard to dodge. But again, there's no follow-up for this attack when you're standing in melee. So just stay in melee. Eat the damage. Your Sigil will probably leech it back faster than it hurts. The Ancient Shambler, if you run away from him, that's when he starts actually doing damage. So, at least in Veteran or normal difficulty, you can just beat him down. He does have a lot of health, which kind of sucks, but you get through him eventually, and as long as you didn't drag a whole bunch of Slith here with you, you won't take any extra damage from him. Okay, the Shambler's Heart here is actually a very good amulet in Act 1. So elemental resistance, it's got more than the Sister's Amulet. 7% increased armor applies to every slot you have armor in, so that's really good. And then depending on what prefixes and suffixes you get, could be considerably better or worse. This one is probably the worst one I've ever seen, and I'm still going to use it, so kind of gives you an idea of how good it sort of is. What do we got for... Still don't have any regeneration on my rings. So about now I would probably be considering buying one. Because I've turned magic items off, I won't see them unless it's a rare prefix and then also of mending. So the other thing you could do is just turn magic items back on. I actually wasn't thinking about that when I turned them off. Okay, we've got a rare item here. 16 flat physique instead of 6%. It's probably about the same. It's got the same armor, but it's got some extra stuff as well, so it's actually more physique, the flat amount, so we'll use that. And I think the rest of our stuff was pretty much to be left. Okay. This is your blacksmith for town, this quest. You can pick between Duncan or Angrim, I think his name is. Yeah, Angrim. Angron is someone completely different. For this character, their specialist crafts do not matter, so you pick whichever one you prefer. Duncan will give you slightly more XP, only in normal, so once you get to elite, they give the same XP for the quest. In normal, Duncan will give you more XP, but he also makes you walk a little bit further, so I generally pick Angrim, unless I want Duncan's specialty crafts, just because I'm lazy. Let's just get rid of all these rabid bonebacks. Okay, and that spider can go as well. Right, so here's Angrim. You pretty much just head directly east, follow the road more or less, and you can side with Angrim, or you can side with Duncan. It doesn't matter. Don't pick the option where you have to fight Angrim. You can just talk him into giving you the hammer, if that's the way you want to go. The next thing we're looking for is a cave, which you have to come back here to the main road for. And then if you follow the main road to the northwest, you'll see there's the cave. Unfortunately, this is blocked for me, so I can't go in the easy door. Which means I have to go over here, and hopefully I didn't get the really bad spawn. Which I probably have because I'm recording. Alright, let's go in. Did I get the bad spawn? I did. Okay, so the good spawn is you can just walk in the back door, grab your devotion shrine and leave. The bad spawn is you have to come in here, and then you can go through here and get your devotion shrine and leave. And the worst spawn, which is the one I've got, is you have to come in this side, and then this is blocked, which means you have to go through here and you have to fight all this rubbish. Now, just because I said you have to fight it, doesn't mean you have to kill it. You can just run past it, but you're going to take more damage than just walking in the back door, grabbing your devotion shrine, and then leaving. Though, to be fair, I'm basically just doing that anyway. And I'm going to spend my points once I get out here and kill whatever's standing at the doorway. Okay, and we got to level up as well. So, fire and chaos damage, chaos resistance, spirit, fire and chaos damage. Well, now we get to the point where we're actually doing fire and chaos damage. So now our Sigil of Consumption does a bunch of vitality, a bunch of fire, and a bunch of chaos damage, and also has some vitality damage over time, and steals a whole bunch of health as well. So now we just max out those two nodes, so this one and this one. And then we can probably start putting points in Arcanist after that. Get some extra spirit from the from this one and start working our way up towards Maven Sphere. I'm also now going to start doing the totems. This particular one I know is relatively easy. Of course, nobody spawned in the sigils I had already placed, so that's fun. And these guys have the annoying habit of summoning extra stuff that you have to kill. So just pick one of them and kill him first, and then go kill the other one. If you try and sort of split your damage, it'll just take you longer. There we go, whole bunch of items. Now this was just 2 rares. If I had had 5 or 6 rares here, you wouldn't be able to see much of the screen. So that's why I have that button bound to hide all of the items. I am looking at a lot of the affixes on these. None of them look particularly exciting. Generally speaking, I'm checking the rare affixes because I want damage procs. It doesn't look like I got any. Next thing I'm looking for is armor value. And I also do want to find some items with some more regeneration on them as well. No dice, unfortunately. Okay, here we have Ulgrim. Now, Ulgrim is a cook. So we'll send him over to Devil's Crossing, and he can be the cook for our little prison camp in exchange for a little bit of extra safety. Not really sure how he didn't get eaten, considering there were these things on the same screen as him, and they weren't attacking him, but, you know. Maybe he's got some sort of zombie repellent that he never shares with anyone else. Or maybe there's more to him than meets the eye. Alright, I'm going to kill these guys off because when I get near to this rift, we're going to have another fight. And this is a really good place, actually, to demonstrate the difference between veteran and normal. So we're on veteran now. If I walk up here, there's going to be 3 waves, and the waves, there's 3 waves on normal, there's 3 waves on veteran. So that's not the difference. That's the first wave done. Here comes the second wave. Okay, and the third wave should be coming after this. Now, we've got 1, 2, 3 hero monsters here. And I actually have to be careful here because they can actually kill me. Maybe not easily, but without too much in the way of difficulty. So I'm just going to keep running around so they don't get basically the ability to just wail on me. I'll actually have to work for it a bit. Did just pick up Falcon's Claw, which for the next build I'm going to do would be really, really nice. For this build, not so much. But you can see there we got 3 heroes. And actually I'm not going to be able to show this because now done the fight, so they won't appear on normal. If you do that on normal, you'll only get 1 hero. It's always only 1 hero on normal. So I didn't think that through. But just take my word for it. Give me that back. I want to hang on to that. You can have those ones. That's a lot of extra armor. I'll wear those. I'll use that as well. It's not particularly amazing. I think I've gone through all of these already. So we can sell all of that. Okay, so if you do a search for TH regen, you can find all of the rings that have health regeneration. So this one, the of Mending, has given me 20 health regeneration, which is considerably more than the 0 provided by this Void-Touched Copper Band of Corrosion. Any items that say they give you 1 to 4 chaos damage or 3 to 7 lightning damage, that's considered flat damage in this game, and it only applies to things you hit with your weapon or spells that have % weapon damage in them. So for this build, we don't do any acid or damage, or acid or poison damage, and we're not hitting things with our weapon. So actually this Void-Touched Copper Band of Corrosion was providing +1 health regeneration. Yeah, that's kind of rubbish. What do we got? Defense and 15. I'm going to take this one. Now, I can't use this yet for another 3% of a level. But this is another thing that you want to keep your eyes out for, is a ribbon. There are craftable ones, so if I hadn't just bought this, I would just craft one at the end of the act. But for now, we're going to use this one. However, we've just passed the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to finish this episode here. So thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and goodbye for now.